Welcome to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We're coming to you from KCAA 1050 AM all over Southern California. If you miss us live on the radio, you can catch us on the streaming service. We are on Amazon Fire TV. We are on Roku. We are on the Android app. Look for the Building Solid Foundations channel. That's a free channel to download. And this show and a lot of other great shows are on that app. You can check us out anytime, or we're probably on your favorite podcast platform as well. Today, we're going to talk about brand strategy. My guest today is Sarah Michelle. She is a brand strategist and an identity evangelist. She's going to explain what that is, helping business leaders to do less. So, with over a decade of career in agency, global, corporate, and entrepreneurial roles, Sarah helps business leaders make the most of what already exists through streamlined messaging and optimized marketing so that you can achieve more revenue, momentum, joy with less effort. She is the CEO and founder of Honey Map. That's Honey, capital MAP, Honey Map. She's the host of the Successfulish podcast, which she's had me on as a guest. I was very honored to be a guest on that podcast. And she speaks, trains, and consults nationally on brand strategy, identity, and successfully thriving in the intersection of personal and professional. Sarah, welcome to Building Solid Foundations. Great to have you on the broadcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, first of all, before we jump in, I want you to unpack that term, identity evangelist. What is that?
Well, I grew up in the church world, and even if you take the girl out of church, you can't take the church out of the girl. And so I do have a little bit of that evangelism in me. And what I realized coming from a background of advertising and marketing was the importance of identity and how much the core identity of the person running the business is so connected and intertwined with the identity of a business. And so sort of became an identity evangelist of helping to identify those blind spots, those places of identity crisis. And I found that over and over, where most of us as business leaders are beating our heads against the rock, trying to figure out why we're not making further progress in our business, a lot of times it's because we're just a little bit in self-denial. And so that is what I'm really passionate about, is helping people really clearly see who they are, what they're good at, and being able to articulate that and share that with the world.
Really understanding who they are. And I think that's important. I run across a lot of people and they're trying to do a business and market themselves as an expert in something that they read in a book, they went to a seminar, they got a certificate in something. And honestly, I don't see the evidence that they've ever lived it, done it, embraced it, other than they got some training in it. And maybe that's probably where that disconnect is. They're trying to market themselves as something that they
Yeah.
truly aren't yet.
A lot of times, and I see this all the time, not just in businesses, but with individuals. I think that we get caught up in the should be. And it's almost like we have this myth in our head that tells us that other people have the answer to life and they know something that we don't know. And so what happens is we end up copying people that maybe we admire. Maybe we see someone who's doing a similar line of work. We consider them a good competition. And so we start to copy what they do because we think, well, that must be the roadmap. If they're doing it, they must have it figured out. It must be successful. And I think that once we realize that nobody really has any idea what they're doing, the whole world just opens up. I feel like that is one of the most life-changing revelations, just to realize that nobody knows what they're doing and nobody can be you. I think when it comes to branding, when it comes to business, you can copy someone's service, you can copy their pricing, you can copy their messaging, you can essentially replicate exactly what someone else is doing, but you will never be able to actually replicate who someone is. And so the more that you tap into that uniqueness of what makes you you, and as that uniqueness grows, as you're bringing in more people into your team and that creates new dynamics, that is really the one place where no one can compete. That's your best differentiator. And really, that's going to be your best asset in growing your business.
Yeah, and now I wonder if some of that comes from this whole copying other people or caught up in the should be. We're told a lot, and especially the way social media works, they tell us fake it till you make it. Pretend you are what you're supposed to be, and eventually people will believe it, and then eventually you'll become that. And I think to some degree there may be a hint of truth to that, but I think also that leads people down a fairly dangerous path a lot of times.
Yeah, I think that it sort of eats at you. I think that our bodies, our subconscious is it kind of have this has this BS meter. and we're not really able to lie to ourselves. And so it creates that inner conflict. And I think it's less about faking it till we make it and more about facing it until we make it.
Okay.
So I think it's absolutely okay to put yourself in a room that you feel you have no business you belong in. I think that we need to put ourselves in those situations, but also there needs to be a self honesty of, okay, if I do this, these are the steps I'm going to have to take to make this happen. And so there's that aspect of believing in yourself, even if you've never done something before. I do think that we need to be able to do things that we don't feel prepared for. But I think there's a difference between facing something, showing up and pushing through and actually doing it versus just faking it and hoping that no one catches us in the lie.
Yeah, and okay, so Zig Ziglar used to say, you cannot consistently live in a manner that is inconsistent with the way you perceive yourself,
Yeah.
which is what your way of saying the BS meter. At some point, you can fool everybody, but if you actually fool yourself, that's a dangerous place to be. You have to
Yes.
somewhere be able to look in the mirror and honestly assess, this is where I really am, what's going on. And the one thing you mentioned about, okay, you get out there even though you're not fully prepared, but where a lot of people make the mistake is they jump in and they've got this kind of false level of self-confidence, but they didn't actually do anything to prepare. So the other thing you have to do is while you are growing and building and becoming more like what you want to be, you do have to do your homework. You do have to actually do
Yes.
some preparation and do the sweat.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting. There's a lot of science about how the brain can't actually distinguish the reality of what exists versus the words that we say.
Okay?
And so, if we tell ourselves that we are something or aren't something, our brain can't actually distinguish whether or not that is true. It's been verbalized, so therefore it is a truth. And so it's really interesting the psychology of it. And I think that a lot of people vacillate between that imposter syndrome or the Dunning Kruger effect, which are sort of
Yes.
the opposite ends. And I think that it becomes really important to be continually honest about where you're at, where you're going, and to be really mindful of the words that we say, not just to other people, but to ourselves, because that does end up becoming sort of the reality that we live in.
Yeah, I did a show maybe before, and I was talking about the 12 mistakes I see entrepreneurs and solopreneurs make. And one of them is that Dunning-Kruger effect, where a lot of people are out there trying to sell themselves as an expert in something they're not an expert in because they learned a little bit and they don't know how much they don't know about it yet. And that doesn't mean they can't ever do that. And that doesn't mean that they don't have something to offer. What it does mean is they have to really understand how little they know and what they need to learn, and maybe look at before I run off half baked and go do this to sell to everybody else as an expert. Maybe I need to partner with some people first,
Yeah.
and learn from them. Maybe I need to collaborate in a group, and then as I grow and learn, I'll realize how much I don't know about that still. But I still that's a better place to be when you go to offer other people help. And I do see a lot of the imposter syndrome going on, especially in the what I'd call the kind of the coaching and mentoring world. I see a lot of that going on. Not to say that that's all legitimate. I've worked with fantastic people that are great mentors and great coaches, but I've worked with a lot of people that are not, and they're trying to sell something that they're not. So I think the identifying the fact that you can't substitute who you really are. I think that's very important too. Also, you mentioned a very important thing, which is copying someone else. We're taught to do that. Go see what someone else is doing and successful, model that person. Modeling is not copy. It's not a direct image. And so there has to be a way of deliver it. There's an imitable resource that means something you have that nobody else can duplicate, and that's you. That's the human being. And as a human, if you can present the same old information in a different and unique way to people that relate to you, that's a valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of it too comes to not just with self awareness, but self security and realizing that it is okay. We don't, I think sometimes when we see a competitor, we see someone who's sort of in our space, it's almost like the hair on the back starts to stand up. We start to get a little tingly, a little territorial.
That's
And
the scarcity
it's the
mentality, yes.
scarcity mindset that there's not enough around the table. And it's just not true. Some of the best collaborative partners are the ones who do the exact same work. And I think that learning that, the more confident that you can get, you start to actually curate a better client base, a better customer base. And there's
Right.
been times where I've met with someone who they need services that I have, but personality wise, we just don't gel. But I know this person over here who does something very similar, and they would have a much better relationship. It is better for all of us for me to refer that business out because that person is going to remember it. They're going to refer me to someone who would better gel with me. So I think when we can sort of have that self security, when we let go of that fear, that creates a lot more healthier and better opportunities for us as well.
Well, there's also the issue of sometimes you're just at your capacity. You
Yeah.
cannot take on anything else or anybody else. And do you tell that potential client, you just blow them off and say, sorry, I'm too busy for you. Have a nice life. Hope you work it out. Or do you say, you know what? I don't normally do this, but I'm at capacity, but there's another fantastic person I know that I can refer you to. You'll be in good hands. They'll
Yep.
take care of you. I think people will remember and appreciate that. And even if that person becomes a permanent client of who you referred them to, they're going to talk and they're going to say, you know what, there's this other great person that was selflessly referred me over to the person that they helped. But we're going to have to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to talk to you about how does all this relate to business and making money? This is all good and well, but how do we turn this into making money, which is what we're after? This is Building Solid Foundations on KCAA. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We're talking to Sarah Michelle. She is a identity evangelist, a brand strategist, and we'll be right back after the short break.
Looking to attract your target market without soliciting or doing the cold calling? Call Marie Waite and book your consultation. Branding gives you the power to create a unique and classy perception of your business for your target audience. A marketing plan without the right branding will always cost more, take longer, and tend to deliver subpar results compared to a well-branded business. Marie Waite is a branding strategist who formulates effective marketing and media programs to promote your business in building your name, brand, and legacy. Marie has over 10 years of experience and a proven record of creating strong brand content for business owners, entrepreneurs, and companies using her creative ideas, recommendations, and innovative programs. Book now at mariewaite.com or call her at 951 378 5316. 951 378 5316.
Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections. Hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Hello, everyone. I am Lynette LaRoche here at Fabulous Lifestyles Foundations Radio Show. So excited to have you here with us. We have so much to offer you, and we have amazing guests that we bring on every Sunday. So we want to make sure that you tune in on KCAA Broadcasting Network, because remember, this is all about having a fabulous lifestyle, and it can be yours to be had. So tune in every Sunday to Fabulous Lifestyle Foundation Radio. And we also have other radio shows that will be of interest to you as well in fashion, fun, and finance. I am Lynette LaRoche, and remember, you need to build a house before you can bring in the furniture.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are talking to identity evangelist and brand strategist, Sarah Michelle. And I didn't mention this at the top when I introduced her because I wanted to get straight into the meat of this. But full disclosure, she is in fact my daughter. And that is why if you're listening to this on the radio in your car, on the podcast, you're not going to appreciate it. But if you're watching the streaming, you'll notice that she takes after me in her excellent looks. So I just want to throw that out.
Yes, it is a
So,
little bit like having a Snapchat filter of your face, but with hair and some lipstick.
all right. So let's talk about, so we, before the break, we were talking, kind of identifying what identity evangelism is, some of the pitfalls people run into trying to be something they're not, trying to sell something they don't know, not making preparations, or just having insecurity about who they are, what they are, and what they have to offer. So now let's get into what people probably really want to know. And that is, what does any of this have to do with running their business and generating money? How does it help with revenue?
So I think one of the trickiest things with revenue is that so many of us approach it from a panic mindset and from a short-sighted mindset where we just want the next dollar right now. And what happens a lot of times is when we grab for that immediate next dollar, we miss the potentially thousands of dollars that are just a few steps ahead if we slowed down, if we came at it from a healthier place. And any business that I have ever worked with, whether it's a solopreneur, whether it's a global multi-billion dollar corporation, when you trace back the health of the business, when you trace back the messaging, any issue in the company, it always goes back to the top. It goes back to the person running the company. And I think that we have grown up in this society that tells us that to be professional, we have to leave our personal lives completely out of it. But the reality is that our personal lives are always attached to us. And what this looks like, if we have a bad day, let's say you start your morning and you have a fight with your spouse or your kids, or you get a diagnosis or bad news, you're going to carry all of that energy with you into the business. That's going to touch everyone you interact with. They're going to touch everyone they interact with. And what happens when we carry those toxic traits is we actually stop the revenue train. It creates issues with retention, it creates issue with attitude, it creates issue with employee buy-in. And so it's so important that we know ourselves, that we have that self-awareness, because the healthier that we are as individuals, the healthier the business will be. And the healthier the business will be, the more revenue is going to come in as a result.
So we are taught that we are to separate personal and professional. We are to not mix the two ever. Keep your personal life out of business, keep your business life out of home. But we are humans, and humans are holistic beings, and the emotional, the spiritual, the mental, the physical, all are hopelessly intertwined. And we can't break all that apart. It does affect our well-being, our health, our focus, our energy. So there, and I think there's also the whole idea of familiarity breeds contempt. And if they really knew who I was, they wouldn't want to work. There's some of that I think everybody has, as you mentioned, kind of imposter syndrome. They really knew, all my fears.
Absolutely. There's that anxiety of we don't want to be found out. We don't want to sit in a room and have everyone realize that we've never done this before. We don't actually know what we're doing. And what you find out when you sit in most boardrooms, nobody really knows what they're doing. And people are terrified to admit that. But if you are the person who is willing to kind of raise your hand and say, I have a question about this, this doesn't make sense. I want to understand this. I want to educate myself. You'll find that pretty much everyone in the room has the same question. And you'll almost hear this collective sigh of relief of, oh, thank God someone asked this question because I didn't know the answer. And so it actually, that humility of acknowledging that maybe we don't know what we're doing is really the first step into being a lot more successful and productive in our work.
And part of the posing people do that I've learned is, depending on the environment you're in, people try to prove that they know things and they're up on things, and they use acronyms and initials and little things like that. Honestly, until somebody asks, what are you referring to? And nobody wants to ask the question. So, maybe they're quietly trying to Google that on their phone. What does QRT mean? And if somebody asks, okay, maybe they'll look at you and they'll initially say, well, that's a stupid question, but they were all one. Somebody else was wondering the same thing. And if you don't ask, you don't know. I don't usually have a problem with that. I will ask those questions. So I'm not an academic by trade, but I happen to work in a college. They use a lot of language that I don't understand. I don't have a degree in education. That's not what I'm an accidental educator. And I will ask questions all the time. And they'll say, what is this? And they look at me like, where have you been your whole life? I haven't been in school. I haven't been in academia. I don't know. You got to, tell me what it means and we'll go along with it. It's never held against me, but sometimes I think people are surprised. And I wonder how long they sat around the table before somebody explained that to them, or they stumbled across it, figured out what it really meant the whole time scratching their head. So a couple things that you said I want to jump on. One, you talked about the short-term mentality. So that was another one of those 12 mistakes that entrepreneurs make, the short-term mentality instead of playing the long game. And I think that's important. And the other thing you mentioned was there's an old saying that says, you don't step over the ugly, crinkled up $100 bills to pick up the shiny nickels. And people tend to do that. There's a lot of shiny stuff out there. And especially in this day and age, with the world we live in, with all of the electronic and digital media out there, there's a lot of shiny stuff out there. There's a lot of really cool shiny stuff. There's a lot of trends, a lot of buzzwords, a lot of bandwagons to jump on. And sometimes the money is in the plain, the ugly, and the simple. It's in the unimpressive. Now you have to find a way to market that in an interesting way, but there's gold in the old. It doesn't have to be all new stuff. So and the other thing you said that I thought was very concentrate, stop your revenue train. That's a fact. And everybody has them, and we have to identify them. So, good point. Ask the questions, and don't let yourself get in the way. Our biggest obstacle is us. Biggest obstacle is us. So, people use different terms. They use limiting thoughts and those kind of things. It's all the same. We all have those because we're all a little bit insecure. So let's look at that in the light of you promise to help, a weird promise. You promise to help business owners do less. Now, everybody else is promising more. We want more, we want bigger, we want better, we want elaborate. You're saying, no, I'm promising to help to do less. What does that mean?
Yes. So often with businesses, we think, okay, it's not working, so we need to do more. We need a magic button. We need the magic marketing button. And maybe if we add a social media channel, if we add a new flashy thing to the website, if we add events, if we add webinars, if we add thought leadership, it's overwhelming. And if we're honest about the current landscape in business, there are layoffs going on every day. There are budget cuts. We are overwhelmed. There is burnout to the point that people literally have to take a dedicated day for mental health. The fact that mental health days are a thing should blow our minds. That should not be a thing that we have to take a physical day to prevent a breakdown. We're so overwhelmed and overworked. And a lot of times the answer to creating more revenue or to doing better in our company is not to add to that overwhelm. It's to look at what we have and to be more efficient with the channels that exist. So maybe instead of adding more, maybe what we need to do is just focus on one or two places to really go deeper with our revenue. Maybe we really need to focus on our client relationships because statistically, we're going to get about 80% of our business from 20% of our clients. So instead of trying to go out and get more, maybe we focus on what we already have. Maybe instead of having to go out and come up with new content every single day, we really reduce and we have 3 to 5 core messaging themes that we're able to recycle and interchange and reuse and really squeeze out all the value across all platforms. And also by doing less, it not only streamlines the message and creates a more consistent, understandable relationship for our customer, it also frees us up as business leaders to be able to rest and breathe and create some space. Because I think that the creativity, the ideas, the things that really move us forward, those need space. Those need to be created in the margins. And if we're constantly just focused and stressed on the work, we don't leave ourselves any room to be able to have those brilliant ideas.
I think that's an important thing. If you focus on a few things, you can truly become a specialist and an expert in those things and become known for those things. So I look at it as so if you go to the old TGI Fridays, I don't know if they even exist anymore. I think most of them closed down. They give you this menu, and then you need about 2 hours to study the menu, and you didn't get a syllabus or anything, and then they're going to come test you on it. You're like, I don't even know where to start. There's more salads here than I can count. I haven't got to the burgers yet. Then there's pastas on the back, and then you go to some place like In-N-Out. Now I know in the Midwest where you are, and some of the other areas of the country, they are horribly deprived and oppressed people. They don't have an In-N-Out burger, but in In-N-Out, technically there's a bunch of things on the menu, the so-called secret menu, but all it is a bunch of ways to do the same thing. There's burgers with cheese or without cheese. There's fries. There's shakes, and there's drinks. That's it. That's all there is. And you can do one patty or two, and cheese or no cheese, or vegetables or no vegetables. You can do it animal style or not. It's all the same thing. That's all they do. What's Raising Cane's? All it is chicken fingers and fries. You want 2 pieces, 4 pieces, 6 pieces. That's all there is. They do something very simple. They do it well, and their customers know to rely on them. And it's always consistent. It's always quality. And I think if that's the approach we take, instead of trying to let's add something else. Let's put flatbreads on the menu. Let's add mocktails. Let's do something different. And I think that's kind of where I think McDonald's maybe went off the track. So I think that mentality of keeping it simple and becoming really, really good at the 1 or 2 things that we can do really well. And then maybe later we can add some other things in. But for the most part, I think you're right. We get more efficiency, more effectiveness, and we build a brand.
Yes, and that creates better relationships. Ultimately, marketing is really about building relationships, and people want to do business with safe people. And if you think about in aspects of if you were going to date someone and they introduced themselves as a comedian and a cyclist and a marathoner and a book writer, and they start listing off all these personalities, that is not going to be someone that you want to date. They're going to feel like a very unsafe person. Like, oh my goodness, figure out who you are, because how can I be with you if I don't know who you are? It's the same with business. When you start throwing out, we do this and this and this and all these services, consumers are burnt out too. Your clients, your customers are tired. They're exhausted. They're making decisions all day. And when they have to think to work with you, they might be too tired to. So really, as a business leader, we want to make it as easy as possible so that someone doesn't really have to make a decision. We want to be able to identify, here is the pain point specifically that you're looking for. Here's the solution. All you have to do is say, yes, I want to work with you. And really, that's the best thing we can do, is make it easy to work with us.
All right. On that note, we're going to take another short break. This is Building Solid Foundations. We're talking to Sarah Michelle, identity evangelist and a brand expert on KCAA. This is Building Solid Foundations. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services, including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing, and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Real men of real estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Boats, mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station KCAAradio.com.
You're listening to Fabulous Lifestyle Radio. I'm your host, Ricky Perry, and we are affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and Sports, where we broadcast to over 5 million households in the greater Los Angeles area. If you missed our previous shows, you can watch us on our streaming networks on Roku TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and the Android app.
Looking to attract your target market without soliciting or doing the cold calling? Call Marie Waite and book your consultation. Branding gives you the power to create a unique and classy perception of your business for your target audience. A marketing plan without the right branding will always cost more, take longer, and tend to deliver subpar results compared to a well-branded business. Marie Waite is a branding strategist who formulates effective marketing and media programs to promote your business in building your name, brand, and legacy. Marie has over 10 years of experience and a proven record of creating strong brand content for business owners, entrepreneurs, and companies using her creative ideas, recommendations, and innovative programs. Book now at mariewaite.com or call her at 951 378 5316. 951 378 5316.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today we are talking branding, we're talking marketing, we're talking identification of who you are, what you are, and why you exist with Sarah Michelle. She is an identity evangelist. Her company is called Honey Map. By the way, if you want to get hold of Sarah and ask her questions, you can go to Just Sarah Michelle, justsarahmichelle.com. You can find her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook at Just Sarah Michelle. And connect with her there, ask her questions, follow up, tell her you heard her here, and you got questions about what you can do in your business, or just some basic advice, or just say hi. She's a friendly person. That's why, she moved from Boston to the Midwest, and now she's a more friendly person than she was. So
Absolutely. Iowa nice.
That's right. Iowa nice. All right, when we left off, we were talking about trying to give our customers less work to do. And I've used that TGIF, Fridays analogy. I feel the same way about the Cheesecake Factory. It's too much work. You give me a menu. I don't have time to go through all this stuff. I don't want to figure this out. And you see people aggravated over it. What are you going to have? I don't know. What are you going to have? I just don't know. What do you think? What do we feel like? I don't know. Don't do that to people. Let people know when they walk in, we got burgers, or we got pizza, or we got ribs, or whatever you got. That's what you got. You got tacos, whatever it is. And as a business, if you can make your customer's life easy, because they do have enough stress in their life already, make it easy so they can decide really quick. Because I will say this, will you lose some customers because you don't have what they have to offer? Sure. But for most people, the second best thing to a yes is a really fast no. You don't waste a lot of time. So sort it out really quick. They're not your people. That's okay. Send them somewhere else. If they're your people, be able to serve them in a very simple and efficient way. Okay, so taking on that point, let's look at where places are that companies waste their energy and effort. Where are they spinning their wheels?
So there's a few. One, I think, goes back to what you mentioned earlier about the importance of collaboration. I think that we waste a lot of energy trying to be all things to all people, and our energy would be much better spent if we really just dedicated some time towards collaborating, connecting with other industry experts so that we have a ready to go resource list where we can refer out, whether that's referring our customer out, whether that is delegating work so that someone who actually is good at something and likes doing it can do it and we can focus on what we're doing. I think being able to collaborate and delegate and not do everything ourselves saves a lot of energy. Another place is lack of focus. I think that a lot of times, if we're not really clear about what direction we're running in or who we are, we kind of get that shiny object syndrome and we chase after, okay, I'm going to go do this one-off PR thing over here and this media article over there and this event over here, and I'm going to do a social media post here. And anytime with marketing, you really need to touch someone at least 7 to 10 times for them to feel comfortable making a decision. And what happens when we're spinning our wheels in different directions is that we're not tapping them 7 to 10 times. We're actually kind of tapping them once in 7 to 10 places. And it's starting that cycle all over again. So that's a huge place where we're wasting energy, is by having that lack of focus and running after every new shiny marketing object. And then the other place would be interruptions. How many times does something pop into our inbox and we look at the email and we immediately stop doing what we're doing to answer this email, and then someone pings us, so then we stop over there, and it's like squirrel brain, squirrel syndrome. This is particularly difficult if you are like myself and have a touch of ADHD. I very much struggle with that squirrel brain. And so one of the best things that has helped me be more efficient is to narrow my priorities every day to 3 things. They might change as the day goes on. It's okay to have that flexibility, but rather than just jumping from task to task to task, try to focus yourself on what actually is going to move the needle today. How can I focus on this? And if I do need something from someone else, rather than hijack their day and interrupt their workflow, why don't I write it down? And then you can send an email that makes that a little bit more consistent and let people respond on their own time. So I think those are probably the 3 biggest ways that we're wasting our energy in the workspace.
And I would say that makes a lot of sense. Now, here's the interesting thing. You said a lot of things today that I'm glad that I did my show on the 12 things, the mistakes they make before I had this interview. Otherwise, people would think I just stole this interview and created my own list of things because you're hitting on pretty much all the points.
It's
And
the common 12. It really is.
it
The
is.
mistakes businesses make are not that unique.
Now, see, I was going to say, since you're related to me, you're a super genius, and that's what explains that. But but the all things to all people thing, you cannot do everything, and you cannot serve everybody. One of the things that drives me nuts is when I talk to people and I say, okay, well, who are the people you're going after? Who is this for? Oh, everybody. It's for anybody. No, the most common products in the world are not for Walmart serves more people than probably anybody. It's not for everybody. It's not for the person that wants to go to Nordstrom's and get high-end customer service with top quality products. It's not for that person. It may be for 80% of the population, but it's not for everybody. McDonald's, biggest restaurant chain in the world. Is it for everybody? Well, there's a lot of vegans out there that would say no, that's not for us. Or a lot of healthy eaters that say that's not for us. So there's nothing that's for everybody. And then on the I can do everything. What I used to do when I used to talk to business people, I was doing consulting. They would have their little enterprise, and I'd create an organization chart like any company would have, and it would have marketing and IT and operations and sales and everything they have, finance and accounting, the whole thing. It's the whole organization chart, and then I put their name in every single box. And I'd say, you ever wonder why you're so tired? See, when you used to work for a company, you did one of these boxes. Now you're in 28 boxes. They're all jobs. You're exhausted. And I said, if you had your way, what would be the first box you'd get rid of? Of course, for most people, it was the accounting and finance box. Because unless you're a CPA, nobody wants to do their own bookkeeping and accounting. That's not a thing they want to do. Great. Did you know you can hire a bookkeeper for a lot less money than the amount of time you're wasting trying to do this yourself? And I don't care if you have QuickBooks or whatever, so does the bookkeeper. Just let them do it. Give them access to your bank account as long as you can trust them. Make sure it's audited. Hire a CPA to do your taxes. And let's start with there. And then we'll work to the next thing, right? Don't design your own website. You're not a web designer. It's going to look amateurish. Hire somebody to do it, right? Because we also want to save a buck, right? We're starting a business. I don't have any money. I'm going to save a buck. I can just do it myself.
Yes, that is the temptation, but sometimes saving $1 costs $3.
That's the stepping over the $100 bills to pick up the shiny nickels. Yeah, no, that's a bad
all
plan.
the time. Solopreneurs who are held up in their business, they're not actually offering the service they're great at because they're so distracted trying to figure out how to do a website, how to do social media, how to do all the different things. I see it in big corporations who want to save $1 by giving everything to the junior employee and then having to pay 3 times as much when they have to redo everything when it's
or
done
they're out of
correctly.
compliance because the employee didn't know about the compliance rules.
Or when it takes 5 times as long because that employee is busy Googling how to do something. And there are times in business where you do need to save your money and maybe you have the time. There's certainly been times in business where, as much as I would love to hire someone to do content or a website, sometimes it makes more sense. You know what? I need to figure out how to do this. But there are also times when you realize, you know what? I need to make the investment because if I can pay someone else to do this, that is what is going to clear me up to generate more income coming back in.
And it's also knowing your own skills. So if you are a creative and you decide to do your own social media content, that's probably okay because that's probably something you actually enjoy and you're good at, and you have the skill set to do it, and you actually put a smile on your face doing it. That's fair enough. Now, you don't want to do too much of it that you take away from what you're doing to generate money, but you don't want to do the things that you're no good at. That's not where you want to go. For me, anything artistic, I'm usually outsourcing to other people because I don't have the skill set to do my own graphic design. I don't have my skill set to do my own layout and those kind of things. I can't do it. I mean, I could do a rinky-dink job on PowerPoint or something like that, and it would look like some amateur did it on their kitchen table, which is exactly what it would be. And I don't want to look like that. You want to look professional. So I think there's a lot to say about finding the right people to do things is more cost effective than saving the money by trying to do it yourself, and also identifying who are my actual customers. Everybody's not my customer. I need to identify them so I don't waste my time and money marketing to people that'll never be.
Well, and that's one of the most important parts of doing less too, is to really, if you've never done a brand or business audit, I always recommend starting there. because otherwise it's very tempting. What happens is we end up being reactionary, and then okay, I have to hire someone to do social media, or I have to do this, I have to do that. And in order to do less and free ourselves up to be more successful, it's so important to do that brand audit and really know ourselves well enough to know, okay, what are the things that I can figure out for myself? What are the things that exist within the team? What would be the most efficient resource to bring in to move the needle? And ideally, anytime you're doing anything for your business, growth or marketing, you want to be able to take a good chunk of that profit and put it back into your marketing budget so that you can do the next piece. So that's so important to really streamline what's going to move the needle and to really focus on that one place at a time.
Great. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to do our last segment, wrap all this up. We are talking to Sarah Michelle, identity evangelist and a brand strategist, and we are talking about how to focus your efforts in your business, be a little more efficient and effective, and kind of learn some of those lessons that most of us learn the hard way when we're solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and trying to start a business. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are on KCAA 1050 AM all over Southern California. We'll be right back after this short break.
Hello, everyone. I am Lynette LaRoche here at Fabulous Lifestyles Foundations Radio Show. So excited to have you here with us. We have so much to offer you, and we have amazing guests that we bring on every Sunday. So we want to make sure that you tune in on KCAA Broadcasting Network, because remember, this is all about having a fabulous lifestyle, and it can be yours to be had. So tune in every Sunday to Fabulous Lifestyle Foundation Radio. And we also have other radio shows that would be of interest to you as well in fashion, fun, and finance. I am Lynette LaRoche. And remember, you need to build a house before you can bring in the furniture.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio Talk Show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, Solid Foundations Radio.
Hey guys, it's Damon, Mr. Foxy, Damon Hart, and I'm here with the real men of real estate. And I just want to say, hey, come and watch us this Sunday, 1 p.m. live, every Sunday. Okay, we're going to be on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. If you got a minute, just tune in. We can't wait to have you here. I'm going to be there. If you can't make it on there, we're going to be at Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, or Android app on Building Solid Foundations channel. So tune in. You know what you got to do in the meantime. Keep it foxy.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing, and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today, we have been talking with Sarah Michelle. She's an identity evangelist and a brand strategist who is an expert at helping people identify how to market themselves and brand themselves by representing who they really are, what they really have to offer, and do less. Get more by doing less, and really take a lot of the stress out of running your business, because running a business is a lot of stress. And if you can take a lot of things off your table and not worry about so much stuff, your life becomes better. And a byproduct of that is you become more profitable. And that's kind of the idea when we get into businesses. Can we be more profitable? All right, so let's recap real quick. And when we finished up the last segment, you mentioned you kind of do a brand or business audit because it goes back. And earlier in the first segment, you mentioned that in any business, everything goes back to the top. That's the person in charge. So in a business, when there's a startup, you have an entrepreneur, solopreneurship, whatever it is always created in the image of the founder or the owner. It's a reflection of us. It's like that when you in the old days when they used to have the signet ring and the wax and they seal things, that impression was an exact impression of the ring that was left there. And that's what we're doing. The business is that wax impression that the business owner puts on there. So building solid foundations, the where this name of this show came from, started from when I was doing business consulting, and I'd always take owners back to build the solid foundation. What is your purpose? Who are you? Why do you exist? Where do you think you're going? What's your vision? Where do you plan to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What are your core values, those non-negotiables you have, that if you were offered something to violate those, you would turn it down no matter how lucrative it is? These are what I'm here for. This is the reason I started my business, was to do this. And a lot of times I say, well, I wanted to make money. No, because you can make money doing a lot of things. You can sell illegal drugs and make money, but you're not doing that. So there must be another reason you're doing your business. There must be a bigger purpose there, right? So going back, and we're going to get into this brand business audit thing, which is kind of where to start. And I'm assuming that means going back to those elements. Is that right?
Yes, going back to the very basics, going back to the heart of something. And I think I love the name Building Solid Foundations. It's something that I talk about with clients all the time. I think that I generally compare it to building a house where everyone's really excited about building a really amazing bathroom. And that's awesome. I love a good bathroom. Like, that's so exciting when you have the clawfoot tub and all the fixtures and features. But you can't build the bathroom without having the foundation. It will be a very expensive process. And if you try to do that yourself without a blueprint, without a plan, and you just kind of show up with a toolbox and start hammering stuff, it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be very messy. You're going to end up spending a lot of time and money, and you're probably never going to get anything that actually looks like the bathroom that you want. And so when it comes to building that foundation, it's about knowing yourself, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you want something to be. And a lot of times we just get so busy running with our business that we forget to stop and ask ourselves if we're even happy with the direction that we're running in. And that is completely okay to run in a direction for a year and then realize, you know what? I don't think I like this. Now that I have more data, now that I'm more educated, I think I'm actually better over here in this avenue that I didn't know existed. And so that brand audit of really knowing your business is so important. And it almost always comes back to doing a personal audit of really knowing yourself very well and kind of being honest about, am I actually enjoying the life that I'm working so hard to create?
And so I talk people through also, when you're looking at your business, look at it, have your own, you need a business mission or purpose statement, but you need a personal one too.
Yes.
You need a business vision, you need a personal vision. You need a business core values that reflect your personal core values. And I tell them, so in the business, you have a culture. In a human being, you have a personality. Mm-hmm. And in a business, you have a brand. And in a human being, you have a reputation, right? And that's how you have to look at it. They're very similar because, again, it's a reflection. The business is a reflection of the human, and that's what your whole point is getting to. This is, can you somehow brand your business to reflect who you are as a human being? And the fact is, there's not another one of you on the planet.
Yeah.
There's 7+ billion people out there, and not another one of you.
Well, and also what happens to the importance of really knowing your own identity as well is to help create those protective boundaries, especially if you're a solopreneur. It's so easy to just become entangled with your business. And now if someone doesn't want to work with you, if they've rejected your business, it's almost like they've rejected you. If someone doesn't like your business, they don't like you. And when you're doing marketing, especially if you're building a personal brand and putting yourself on the internet, it starts to feel like you're just naked on the internet and everyone's entitled to your life. And so it's so important to do that work of knowing yourself, knowing who you are, so that you can feel more confident and you can have that separation between yourself as a person and yourself as a business. And I think that we need that maturity and that self-security to be able to do our business more successfully.
Well, I think you also need to insulate yourself from people you should not be working with. Because
Yes.
if you have the core values, there are people that'll suck the life and the soul out of it. There are people that are parasites that are trying to take your time and your ideas and everything, and then they're going to stiff you. So you want to look at people that don't fit your values and don't fit they don't fit. And those people you can identify and say, you're not my client. And you can say it in a nice way. You don't have to be rude about it. But you also have to look at the existing clients and fire some of them.
Yes.
And we don't want to do it because we're saying, well, that's steady income. And how would I do? No, sometimes the best thing you do, again, you mentioned the 80-20 rule in another context, but that 80-20 rule, that Pareto principle, same thing. Sometimes that 20% of your problem client is sucking up 80% of your time and energy. You can't serve your other 80.
Yes. And your clients will also attract like clients.
Yes.
And when you're curating your business, when you're building something, I've watched this happen where, you're new, you need the money, you don't want to turn someone down, but those soul sucking clients, they're never worth it. And then you get stuck and you get trapped with all these bad clients.
All soul sucking clients because they brought their friends.
The cheaper prices, they want more work, they don't appreciate the value of what they're getting. And I think that we all have to work with a life lesson at some point in our life. But I think anyone who's been in business for probably more than a year has worked with that life lesson and can attest that it is never worth it to take the bad client. If you get that feeling in your stomach that tells you, I dread talking to this person, trust that feeling, send them on their way, and trust that something and someone better will come along.
Absolutely. So we're gonna have to put a bow on this one. Sarah Michelle, identity evangelist and a brand strategist. If you want to get hold of Sarah, go find her at justsarahmichelle.com, or you can find her on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook at Just Sarah Michelle. Check her out, find out what she's got going on, and check out the Successfulish podcast. Sarah puts that out. She's got fantastic guests and great information. So check out the Successfulish podcast. It's on probably your favorite podcast streaming platform out there. It's on a bunch of them. And we're going to put a bow. I want to do a quick summary. 1, don't get caught up in the should be. 2, avoid the short-term mentality. 3, learn how to do less so you can get more. 4, you can't be all things to everybody or do everything yourself. 5, find 3 things every day you can focus on to move the needle forward. And that is what I got out of this conversation. Sarah, those are gems. Thank you very much. I think I could write a book on this. That's awesome. So I want to thank you for being my guest today on Building Solid Foundations. And for you audience out there listening, if you want to hear this again, we are on Roku, we're on Amazon Fire, we're on the Android, on the Building Solid Foundations channel. We're also on the KCAAradio.com archives. Catch us on your favorite podcast platform. And until next
maker looking to start a new business, are you frustrated with having to handle all the administrative business for your company? A constant turnover of bookkeepers and staff to keep the business running and out of trouble while you are trying to grow your company? You can't do all this paperwork and expand your business too. Executive Services can provide your company with chief financial officer services, including tax return preparation and advice, bookkeeping, financial statement preparation and analysis services, loan package preparation, payroll, marketing services, notary services, new business formations, business liability insurance services, and an on-call CA